Good afternoon, St. Francis de Sales travelers. Hopefully everyone's doing very well. For those of you that were not able to attend the live presentation at the church, my name's Mitchell Mack. I'll be kind of steering the ship today and taking you through our Imperial Cities itinerary. I'm the local guy. I'm here in Ohio, Streetsboro, if anyone's ever heard of Streetsboro before. I've been with the company a little over 7 years now. Father Dave's group actually holds a pretty special place in my heart because they were the very first presentation that I've ever made during my time with Colette. So I'll always remember that first, and Father's Dave group was that for me. So I'm very excited to be here today to share with y'all what you missed during the live presentation. So we'll get right into it. I know we've offered a few trips in the past before with the church. If you're not familiar with us, the company that's organizing this is Colette. We're an escorted tour company. When I say escorted tour, I like to think of it as thoughtless travel, because when we get up in the morning, our guests don't have to think about, all right, what are we going to see? What are we going to do? How exactly are we going to get there? You don't have to waste time trying to just step right outside your hotel and you're right where you want to be. So you're making a lot better use in the as far as the company goes, we've been around since 1918, taking travelers all over the world to all 7 continents. So 104 years of business and expertise in showing people the world and really having a chance to introduce our travel to the type destinations. So a little bit about what sets us apart and what you can expect on this tour and all of our tours that we have in terms of our product offering. Our guests say when they come back that the experience overall is a 4.5 to 5 star, but the hotels that we're staying in are all 4-star or better. Now, the type of program that we're putting together for y'all is what we call a secular tour. So it's a little bit different than if you traveled with Father Dave before. It kind of blends the best of both worlds. And when I say secular, it's not necessarily branded as a pilgrimage trip, but we're adding a bunch of pilgrimage aspects to just our regular base tour. Mass daily in some of these local amazing churches. Father Dave, of course, leading the prayer services for the group every day. But then we're also going to be staying in some elevated quality hotels, which I'll touch on as we get into the destination a little bit here. In terms of the touring and sightseeing, we map out the touring so that, yes, you're getting the lay of the land, you're seeing all the essentials, the must-see sites in the area, but then we're given enough free time where you can really get off on your own, away from the group, and make the trip exactly what you want it to be, where you don't get back and feel like, oh, I need a vacation from my vacation. We try and map out the touring where it's very balanced with the leisure time. Everyone's going to have a professional tour manager that's with the group from the moment that you land in the destination until they see you off at the end. And you can ask anyone from the church that's traveled with us before. Our tour managers are, in my opinion, where we really separate ourselves from the competition. We're known as having some of the best guides in the industry. We understand that those are the people that are showing you around and elevating your experience. So we put a very heavy emphasis on our guides and who's actually leading our tours so that you're well taken care of every step of the way. I'm a foodie. I love to eat. So we include a good portion of the meals, breakfast daily, about 60% of the dinners. And with the dinners, I mean, it's a great way to immerse yourself in the culture when it comes to the food scene. So we try and get you outside of the hotel into some of these family-owned places where you can actually have, and gain a true appreciation for the food scene rather than just having your old generic meal at the hotel. We include comfortable on-tour motor coach transportation city to city, hotel to hotel baggage handling, so you don't need to worry about lugging around those bags as we're going country to country, city to city. So it's a very turnkey and easy method of travel, especially if you've never been to a country. I find that it's a great way to get the lay of the land, get a little bit comfortable, and then once you have that comfortability, you can get away from the group a little bit during the free time and make the trip exactly what you want it to be. So in a nutshell, that's what the Colette experience is all about. That's the experience that we've been delivering to our clientele for 104 plus years now. So without further ado, everyone can sit back, relax as we make our way over to our Imperial Cities itinerary. Now, my goal today is to help paint as best of a picture as I can of what we're going to see, what we're going to do. Why do we go and visit these areas? Why are they historically significant? What is the religious importance of some of the different sites that we're visiting as well, and give you just a high level overview. Anyone that's traveled with Colette before knows that when they see the itinerary, they actually get on tour and we include and go above and beyond what's actually in the initial tour flow. So a quick look at the tour at a glance. This is just a stock photo. We actually added in a lot of stuff for this group. So you'll see 3 nights starting out in Prague. We actually arranged for the group to go in a day early. So you have an entire day at leisure. If something happens with the flights, no worries. You're not missing out on anything. You're getting that whole extra day, which really allows, I find the body to just kind of decompress, get used to the time change. Shake off the jet lag, and then start getting into the tour and starting off on a good note with really, truly one of my favorite cities. Prague was just, absolutely amazing. The history, the architecture, the people, the country as a whole. It's just got so much to offer. So I'm excited to get into it and show you what we're going to be doing in Prague. So let's get right into it. You're going to be introduced to the city of 100 spires. They call it this because they've got 120 spires that jut out from the ground that you can see from all these different points in the cities. Lots of ancient landmarks, medieval architecture. It is going to be the largest city that we see in Prague. It's the largest capital city, beautiful, breathtaking cathedrals. And so where are we going to be staying on this tour? That's a good question. We're going to be staying 4 nights in the Grandeur Hotel. Now, the majority of our hotels are 4-star. This is one of the treats in store for the group because this is a 5-star Google rated hotel out of 4,100 people. It's centrally located, perfect location within walking distance to the shops, to the cafes, to the restaurants, to the little, hole in the wall churches that you don't see in the picture books. There is a spa right in the hotel. So on that travel day, if you just want to unwind at the spa, you have some time to do so. If anyone in the group wants to try their hand at the casino, if that's your sort of thing, there's a casino right next to the hotel. So perfect location, perfect way to start the trip off. During some of the free time, you can ask the tour manager what they would recommend, and they'll point you in the right direction. Going and shopping for some Bohemian crystal is always a popular item to bring back. It's this very, intricate designed crystal, great detail that goes into it, and some history as well. It's been part of the area ever since the 13th century. Tons of museums for the museum goers, like the Lapidarium, which is home to these amazing 11th century stone sculptures. In addition, the Lapidarium houses these artifacts and are located, in this beautiful summer palace. During some of the free time, maybe you want to stroll to the Old Town Square section where a lot of the action is happening. It's famous for the planetarium clock. It's also a astronomical clock as well. Installed way back in the 1400s, it's still the oldest operating clock to this day. So the technical first day of the tour is going to start out with a welcome dinner at a local restaurant, start to get a flavor for the food scene. One thing that I can say from my experience when I did this tour a few years back is our money goes a very long way when it comes to Prague. So you can, for the dinners that aren't included, you can go in, you can find a very nice restaurant, have 3-4 course meal, drinks included for 30-40 bucks US. So our dollar really does go a long way in this destination, which is just another plus on top of the many that we'll experience. So for the first day, We're going to be introduced to this little fairy tale city during a panoramic tour. We're going to start to see some of those cobblestone streets, the soaring steeples that jut out into the skyline. It's kind of blends the best of both worlds with modern and the medieval past that the city's well known for. One of the crown jewels that really the city started and built up all around was St. Vitus Cathedral. This really is the crown jewel of the area. So our tour is going to take us to the Castle District, where we're going to be introduced to St. Vitus Cathedral and also the Prague Castle. Now, the cathedral itself, cuts into the skyline over 400 feet, built in the 1300s, so hundreds of years of history. If anyone's ever been to Paris and has seen the Notre Dame Cathedral, the architecture is very reminiscent of that Notre Dame Cathedral, and the Prague Castle itself is the largest castle complex in the entire world. So inside, the outside of the cathedral is beautiful, but the inside is, even more breathtaking. It's the seat of the Archbishop of Prague. You'll look around in the cathedral and you'll see these elaborate, 8 gilded statues of the Czech patron saints. You're going to see and learn a little bit about the history of Saint Vitus, how he was a Christian martyr, originally from Sicily, died in 303 AD, and he was the patron saint of dancers and entertainers. And speaking of some of those entertainers, you might run into one or two of them when we visit the St. Charles Bridge. It's the most visited bridge in the city. There's always tons of things going on. The bridge is very unique. It's lined with the 17th century patron saint statues of the city. In addition, you'll find local vendors selling some of their handmade crafts. I always like to, I'm not a huge shopper. This isn't branded as a shopping tour, but anytime that I can get something authentic, I always appreciate it. The bridge itself is rumored to be haunted. When I was there, I did not see any ghosts or anything walking around, but the locals do report seeing ghostly figures on the bridge and then vanishing. So keep your eyes out at night, especially if you're walking along the old Charles Bridge. One thing that we felt was a must to include into the itinerary for you folks was a visit to the old Jewish quarter. So today we're going to be visiting the Jewish Museum and see Europe's oldest surviving Jewish cemetery, founded all the way back in the 1470s. And it is a very somber day, but in a day of remembrance, but a very powerful day. And guests come back from the Jewish quarter feeling like, I'm so glad that we got to do that and have that experience, because we're going to hear some of the powerful stories of the community and their hardships dating all the way back to the 10th century. Learn about the 12,000 graves that are carefully fit into these tiny spaces. Explore the Jewish Museum, all the synagogues there, learn about their significance and the history. And it was rumored, everyone knows, the tyrant Hitler and all of the, devastating acts that he committed against humanity. It was rumored that the old Jewish quarter here and the area around it was actually strategically not bombed during the war, because it was rumored that Hitler wanted to use this place as a place of retirement because the area was that beautiful. So definitely a powerful and moving day, but a day that I find, you come back and you really don't forget that experience at all. So switching gears a little bit from the Jewish quarter, we're going to have what we call Diner's Choice tonight. So Diner's Choice is a little bit different take when it comes to the meals. Instead of giving our guests a restaurant and saying, this is where we're going to be eating tonight, this is, the preset menu, we give you a list of, 2 or 3 different restaurants and the options at those different restaurants so that you can pick or choose how exactly you want to experience the food scene that night. Maybe you want to do a folklore show. Maybe you're a craft beer fanatic. Prague is very well known for their craft beer scene, as well as the food scene. So maybe you want to do a craft beer and food tour, or opt for just a quieter dinner at the hotel. the choice is yours how you want to go ahead and experience your meal tonight before we eventually make our way the next day. We're starting to make our way to Vienna. So unfortunately, as much as all of you fell in love with Prague, we do have to wave goodbye, but we've got tons of great cities in store. And one of those is the fairy tale town of Český Krumlov. The city has a ton of history. You'll see a giant, it's surrounded by a giant moat, the Vlata River. There's also a bear den as well in Český Krumlov. And why it's significant, why we like stopping here for the castle fans in the room, it is one of the best preserved medieval cities and just has that medieval and castle feel. So we'll have a chance. It's about a 2-hour tour of Český Krumlov. Your tour manager will take you throughout the castle wall, throughout the city. And then we're going to have a couple of hours for lunch. So you can explore some of the streets, take in the beautiful Baroque architecture, the quaint little churches and chapels that dot the surrounding landscape. If you want to pop in, you can certainly do so. You have a couple of hours for lunch as well. What I did when I was there, I found a nice little hole-in-the-wall restaurant that was right on the river. I could see the big church that you see in the background with the steeple pointed up into the air. It was just a very iconic setting, and that was just for a lunch. It was a pretty cool experience. So you can experience Český Krumlov however you like before we get into our next city for the night. We're going to be staying 3 nights in Vienna, very much the sound, a city full of music that's been home to, numerous performers such as like Mozart, Beethoven, Strauss. We're going to start to be introduced to the Habsburg Empire as well and learn about their story. But a quick little note on the hotel. We're using the Intercontinental Hotel Vienne, another 5-star Google rated hotel. The location of this hotel could not be better. It's located right in the heart of the city. It's a mix between modern and a classical feel for a hotel that Vienna is very well known for, so very on par when it comes to the theme of the hotel. In terms of where we're located, the main city center square where we're going to see St. Stephen's Cathedral a little bit later on, it's only a 15-minute walk to that main city square. So you don't have to worry about navigating the subway system or anything like that to get into the square on your own. You just step right outside your hotel. It's so nice to just be able to enjoy a nice little leisurely 15-minute walk into the main square, sip on a little cup of coffee and just take everything in before we eventually make our way to the Schönbrunn Palace. So I mentioned those Habsburgs. This is the little tiny summer retreat home of the Habsburgs and their dynasty for more than 200 years. So, all of us have those summer vacation spots that we go to for a couple of days. I wish that my vacation spot looked about like 1,000th of what the Schönbrunn Palace is. It was built in the 1600s and consists of 1,400 rooms. So we can't physically get into all those rooms, of course. We visit about 25 of the most famous, the most iconic, the rooms that the Habsburgs themselves would have stayed in, their living quarters, their dining room, and so much more. We're also going to have a chance to visit the gardens in the back. Yes, the palace is amazing, but for the garden fans in the room, they have an absolutely spectacular and beautiful garden behind the palace. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so we'll see a couple of different UNESCO sites along the way. And basically, what UNESCO is a site, a place, a thing. It could even be a food dish of historical importance. The garden area is a popular spot for concerts as well. When I was there, they were actually setting up for a classical music music concert in the back of the hotel. So they had the stage with the Schönbrunn Palace in the backdrop, chairs all lining the garden. So at night they would light up the entire palace, and it was just one of the most iconic settings I've ever seen for a concert. And we're going to actually be coming back to the palace later on during our trip for a classical music conference. But before we get there, our tour manager is going to take us to really the crown jewel, which is St. Stephen's Cathedral. On a clear day, you can see it from miles and miles away. You'll see, along the way, these scenic parks, these Gothic spires that fill the city. You're going to have an afternoon at leisure once our tour actually comes to an end, which you'll have a chance to pop into some of the famous cafes. We'll also have a chance to visit St. Stephen's Cathedral, which is the mother church of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Vienna. Tons and tons of history behind the church. It's got if you see on the roof, it's got a very unique Technicolor roof that stands out for miles and miles. On a clear day, it almost like shines and glistens in the light. Unfortunately, like a lot of the city was during World War II, the church itself was almost completely destroyed during the war, but they were able, luckily, to build it back up and reconstruct it in the same style of architecture that it would have been when it was originally built years and years ago. The inside is absolutely gorgeous as well. So below the cathedral, we'll have a chance to see the catacombs, which contain the remains of Vienna's cardinals and bishops. So definitely a special experience to see St. Stephen's. It's on everyone's list. For the horse fans in the room, Vienna is also home to this prestigious Spanish riding school. So there are these expertly trained horses that all perform in unison. They're extremely well trained. We actually had a chance to see the horses being moved at the Spanish riding school. I mean, the stables that they keep them are certainly not your average day barn. I mean, it was like a palace, them moving the horses, these beautiful, big white horses across literally the middle of the streets from Vienna over to their training quarters. My mom accompanied me on the trip. She rode horses her entire life, and she came back. It was something we weren't expecting, the Spanish riding school to be a big highlight, but she came back raving about it. Like I mentioned, this is not a shopping trip by any means. This is, a pilgrimage plus, a leisure type trip. And for the gentlemen in the room, I'm sorry about this. I'll just put it up very quickly. You'll also start to be introduced to these Swarovski stores. You'll start to see them lining the streets. Austria is the home to that iconic, very high quality Swarovski crystal. I had to literally fireman carry my mom out of the Swarovski store because she went in there looking to do some damage. But during some of the free time, if you want to pop into the Swarovski store, see what all the rage is about, you've got some time to do so before later tonight. We saw the Schönbrunn Palace earlier. We're going to come back and we're going to experience a classical music performance featuring some of the works of, those iconic producers like Mozart, like Strauss, and the theater itself is just absolutely spectacular, followed by an even better performance. It really is a great treat for anyone. I'm not super into the arts, but I came away from that experience and was like, wow, that was really cool. That was amazing. I'm glad that we got to experience that, and you folks will as well. So speaking of amazing, spectacular, our next day is definitely a highlight for the trip. We're going to do a little bit of something for everyone today. One, we're going to start out with the little town of Dürnstein. It's this quaint little town, cobblestone streets up in the mountains. It's very much a hillside town. And then we're going to make our way down to the Danube River. And we're going to do a Danube River cruise that's going to take us to Melk Abbey. So the Abbey is this iconic, hundreds and hundreds of year old monastery that got its start originally as a castle. And then over the years, it was actually transformed into a monastery, expanded gradually over the centuries. They did add a Roman Catholic school in the 12th century and started being run by the monks and still is run by the monks to this day. Unreal views from the top of the balcony at the Abbey. And while we're in the Abbey, our tour manager is going to take us to the library, which is one of the big highlights. I mean, the library itself that ornate decoration, the beautiful mosaics and frescoes on the ceiling, and the library itself, the contents, it holds one of the most stunning collections and exclusive medieval manuscripts in the entire world. So a special visit to Melk, visiting the Abbey, visiting the town of Dürnstein, having a chance to cruise down the Danube River. The cruise itself is about 2 hours or so, nice relaxing cruise, good photo opportunities on the ship before we get into Bratislava. So we actually have 4 different countries included on this tour. So we're getting a healthy dose of history and culture from multiple different countries along this tour. Again, we're going to start to learn about the Habsburgs again. 19 different Habsburg sovereigns were crowned in the city over the course of 3 centuries here in Bratislava. Get to know the city's 4,000-year-old history with a local expert. And for the food fans in the room, for the foodies, we've got a special community hosted lunch. So not only is this going to be a cooking lesson, learning how to make a regional favorite in the area, which is the strudel, the community hosted aspect allows the people to really, welcome us into the community as a group. We're going to have a chance to learn about the community's history, hear some of the stories from the local people, what life is like as a local in Bratislava, and learn how to make this delicious strudel. You can come back, brag to your family, your friends that you're a strudel making expert. And then we check into a city that really just absolutely blows you away from the moment that you get introduced to it. And that city is Budapest, our final home for the remainder of this trip. We're going to be here for 3 nights. It's considered to be the Queen of the Danube because of its location, situated right on the Danube River. It's the capital of Hungary. This evening, we're going to have a chance to sit with a local Hungarian, engage in a very personal conversation. So again, a way for us to truly introduce ourselves and immerse ourselves into the local Budapest culture. We'll hear some captivating stories about their life and, what life was like when they had to go through, the area being a communist area and a communist city. So the rest of the evening is on our own. We'll get settled into our hotel. It's the Up Hotel. It's a very comfortable and modern hotel. A good way to wrap the trip up on a good note. Again, city center within walking distance of all the shops, right where you want to be. We'll start to really be introduced to the city today during our city tour of Budapest as we get our first look at the Budapest Parliament building during the day. This is, when I first saw this, it was something that just absolutely took my breath away. I always say there's 3 things that I've seen that have absolutely blown me away to the point where I literally have my breath taken away. One of those was the Duomo when we were in Italy, Florence. The La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, just seeing all of the intricate detail. And the more you look at it, the more lost you get. It's just like how could anyone actually, create something this beautiful? And the third for me was seeing the Parliament building. Just the sheer size and magnitude and getting to learn about it a little bit more. This is actually, all things considered, when it comes to the history over this tour, a relatively modern building. Actually, they held a design competition to design the Parliament building back in 1883. Started construction in 85. It took them over 1,000 workers and 17 years to complete. So this wasn't something that, a year or two they were able to just slap up and there you go. It took them 17 years to construct this absolute marvel, but I would say it was definitely worth the wait. Now it consists of 700 rooms, 300 staircases, and 10 courtyards. It's just absolutely massive. And then it really comes alive and is, in my opinion, even more beautiful at night. We do give you free time at night in Budapest. If you're interested in doing a nighttime cruise, your tour manager can point you in the direction of doing. They typically offer a dinner and then a cruise as the sun is setting down and they're starting to light up the Parliament building. I did that during some of the free time, and I thought that, if you don't mind giving up some of your free time, that was one of the cooler experiences that I had when I was in Budapest that wasn't necessarily included into the itinerary. So just a personal tip from me, you can take it or leave it. We are going to get our fill of the city as we join a local expert for a panoramic and also walking tour combined. We're going to see the neo-Gothic style Matthias Church, which stands atop of Buda Castle Hill. It really is like the beacon for the surrounding area. We're going to see Fisherman's Bastion, the old historic Buda and Gellert Hill, as well as the iconic Parliament House. Along the way, we're also going to be introduced to some of the thermal pools that the area is very well known for. Myself, I decided to check out what these pools were all about. Short taxi ride takes you to these beautiful Roman baths. It's very much you're surrounded, you almost feel like you're living like royalty because the surrounding areas like this palace, and then in the middle are these geothermal baths. It was just a good way to just unwind, just kind of kick back and relax near the end of the trip. A good cultural immersion opportunity too. It's not a real touristy area or thing to do. So if you're looking for something to do again during the free time, I recommend checking out the Roman baths. It was a good way to spend, a couple of hours before we eventually continue. We're going to get outside of the city of Budapest and visit the former Renaissance capital of Visegrad. So we're going to get great views of the Danube Bend, the surrounding mountains. It's a very iconic setting. And we're going to be introduced to some of the 14th century medieval flair that the area is well known for. We visit a 14th century castle where these knights with their colorful costumes, authentic, weaponry, create these, days of duel and chivalry. And it's not like, one of the cheesy reenactments that you go to for like, the nights at the nights at Disney or whatever, where it's a jousting and then a subpar meal. This is a little bit more authentic experience, in my opinion. There's really no comparison to it. There is a big medieval presence in the area, so we felt like we got to wrap the tour up with a bang. So we go and visit this castle, see some medieval reenactments, and then get to sit down and enjoy a Renaissance exclusive to our group only Renaissance style dinner inside the castle. So if anyone has ever dreamed of actually having a meal in an authentic castle, Renaissance style castle, you can cross it off the list because this is the way that we're going to be finishing up our trip during the farewell dinner. Lots of singing, lots of dancing, cheersing to what truly is a memorable and bucket list type trip. These aren't your 1-2 day motor coach trips. These are trips that people have been thinking about for their entire lives and have been planning their entire lives. And I mean, over the last couple of years, I've never seen anything like we experienced during the pandemic. And literally people's lives had to be put on pause for 2+ years. No one was able to travel. Things come up in life, health issues, family emergencies, whatever the case is. I talked to so many people, unfortunately, that, they had to put those travel plans on hold, and those issues did pop up, and now they completely missed out on trips that they've wanted to do their entire lives. So I tell people, right now, travel is getting easier with no requirement testing to get back into the United States. The requirements in countries are being lifted, no mask mandates. As a company, we're planning on dropping our vaccination requirements by the end of April to go on our tours, because we're seeing that the world is finally, thankfully, getting back to some semblance of normal, and we definitely want to follow suit. And because this is a bucket list trip, we want people to have, the best experience and be able to start relaxing right away, which is why we offer a hometown pickup where we actually come right out locally. We can pick the group up at one location and take you to and from the airport, so you don't have to worry about the hassle. You just start relaxing right away. So what exactly is my money getting me? What's the price of this trip? What is actually included in this tour that I just talked about? So the double rate is $49.79. That's based on double occupancy, so two people sharing a room. If you are traveling as a solo or as a triple, I do recommend getting your deposit in sooner rather than later, because triple and single rooms are limited and they're on a first come, first serve basis. For instance, with a triple room, we typically use a rollaway cot, and hotels only have a finite number of cots. And once those cots are gone, the triple rooms are gone as well. So especially for singles and triples, you want to make sure to get booked, get deposited sooner rather than later. And I'll go over how to do that in a couple of slides here. So what exactly did we include for you folks in this itinerary? So the price includes your land. That means your hotels, the meals that you see included in the tour, tips for those included meals, your tour manager, local step-on guides from time to time, all of your motor coach transportation while you're in country. Air and tax is included in here from Columbus. I understand that we have people that are coming from out of state. You do not have to leave from Columbus. Let's say you're from Scottsdale, Arizona. We can get you pricing when you go and actually start the booking process. Instead of listing Columbus as your air gateway, you'll list whatever airport is closest to you, and we'll get pricing for you from your local gateway. You don't have to worry about being here in Columbus. We also included all of your tips and gratuities for the tour manager, for the motor coach driver, and for the local step-on guides up front as well. So you do not have to worry about tipping. It's already included into the price of the tour. Any admission fees, whenever we go into some of these different, if a church requires an admission fee or a museum, whatever the case is, admission fees are included. Transfers to your hotel, baggage handling is all included into the price of the tour. So it is a very inclusive price. We're not a nickel and dime type of company. The last thing we want people to do when they're on tour with us is to be constantly reaching into their pockets. We want to include as much as we can up front without overwhelming you folks and including too much and going overboard. Now, if y'all are interested in getting signed up, it's a $600 deposit plus the insurance if you'd like to purchase the insurance, which is $399. The nice part about the deposit plus the insurance is they are both fully refundable up until December 22nd. There are very limited seats available to us. So we have 44 is the maximum that will be on this tour per motor coach. We've got about 30, 32 right now. So I wouldn't procrastinate on this. With our previous Israel trip, we were actually able to sell out the first motor coach and had to try and get a second motor coach, but there's no guarantee on a second motor coach. One, we have to have enough people in order to fill a second bus for it to go. The first 44 passengers on the first coach will be booked and will be signed up. Anyone after that is going to have to be put on a wait list. So if you're the procrastinator on this trip, I certainly would not recommend doing so. If you feel like, all right, yes, this is a trip I want to do, great. I recommend getting deposited, doing the insurance if you'd like to. They're all fully refundable up until December 22nd. If something comes up between now and then, you decide, I don't know, maybe this isn't the trip for me. Something comes up medically, something comes up with family. You've got a good, over 4 months to make up your mind and make a decision. Once that 22nd date hits, that's when your insurance starts kicking in and actually working for you. And we are truly known as a company of having some of the best travel insurance in the industry. The reason being, our travel insurance allows for cancellation for absolutely any reason up until the day before departure. And it truly is any reason. You don't need a medical note, no family emergency, anything like that. It's truly canceled for any reason up until the day before departure. And if you do have to cancel with us, we issue a full cash refund minus the trip insurance premium, so that $399. So no travel vouchers, no future travel credits. I've run into so many people, over the course of the pandemic that they had to cancel their tour and were stuck with a travel voucher that, they weren't able to use again because they, had to probably cancel for a medical issue and they're not able to travel. That travel voucher doesn't do them very good. So we want to make sure that, our guests, we want to take care of them. If they don't have a chance to experience the tour, we don't feel like we've earned the guest money. We're not taking, Peter's money to pay for Paul's trip. Over the course of the pandemic, as a company, we took care of our guests and empowered them. We were able to refund $170 million of client money, and that's $170 of cash that we issued to our travelers. And it really showed, me as a rep. I was gone for a year and a half during the pandemic, and I saw the efforts that Colette did as a company and how we really, went above and beyond to take care of our guests. And that really meant a lot. And I think our guests appreciated that as well. Plus, it covers you while you're on tour. So the insurance covers medical, lost baggage, trip delay, trip interruption, theft, you name it. We make sure that we have all the stops in place when it comes to the travel insurance. And to be honest, I just think it's a lot better to have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. So last but not least is, how exactly do I sign up for this trip? There's a couple of different ways to sign up. You can fill out the physical res form if you folks do have a copy of it. It may be a little bit easier. The method that I would probably recommend would be getting on the 800 number. It's 800-581-8942, and I'll leave this slide up for a little bit here. If you want to pause the recording, take a picture of it, write it down, you have a chance to do so. Just refer to booking 110-1491. Or you can click on the gateway link that you see, the gateway.gocollette.com link. That'll take you right to the personalized web page where the trip lives. At the top left-hand side of the page, there's a sign up now. If you're tech savvy enough, can navigate a computer, just click on the sign up now. It'll take you through the different steps that you need, what the information is that we need from you. Passport information, name as it appears on your passport, etc. And you can get booked and signed up right online. So that does it for me. Hopefully, if nothing else, y'all took something out of the presentation today. I know Gary and Father Dave are very excited about this trip. They've been looking forward to it for a while now. So on behalf of them, I invite you to please come along and join us in the spiritual journey and also, this trip of a lifetime. So thank you folks very much for your time and take care.